strategy on this project. We're very, very proud of what we've put together so far. We understand we've got a long way to go, but we hope that you enjoy the tour that Brittany-Ann is going to give you. We're very, very proud of this system. It's the first automated system in America. There are other systems around the world, but this is the very first one in America, and it's unique in the fact that it's here. It's produced some challenges. It's also the longest automated system in North America now, and so we're very, very, very impressed and proud of that. Very happy that you've chosen some time to come here. You're the future. I hope you take a good look at what we've produced so far. Rail's a very leading, cutting-edge technology. Driverless cars and everything are sort of on the horizon, but they're 25 years behind.
We just wanted to welcome you to the Rail Operations Center. This is where the train, the automated train that Bob Bida just spoke about, is driven. And just a side note on Bob, Bob's a truly amazing person. He worked on the first driverless trains anywhere in the world. He built the SkyTrain out in Vancouver. He's worked on 14 systems around the world, and he's working on ours here. This is the first automated train in the United States, and as you mentioned, it's the longest route. But we're very grateful to have Bob. But Rail is truly amazing. As he said, you guys are the beneficiaries of this project. Really, it's about preserving our mobility, especially in the urban core, right? Because as you know, there's a lot of traffic, and no matter how many roads we build, there's going to be just as many cars to fill those. So we need to be able to move people efficiently from the west side of the island to the east, right? And that's for the future too. And surrounding that are the transit-oriented communities and everything. So anyway, we're very happy to have you here to learn about the system. Thank you for coming today.
I'm the project manager for Hitachi Rail. I wasn't nervous, but now I'm nervous because I actually know some of you guys. So you guys know me as a coach, but now I'm here as like a normal working adult. So nice to see you guys again. Like I said, I'm the project manager for Hitachi Rail. And today you guys will be touring the Rail Operations Center and LCC Station, which is Halolani Station. So first, I would like to basically explain what Hitachi does. So Hitachi Rail is the core systems contractor for HART. And basically, to keep it simple, we provide the trains and we do all the designs, installation, and commissioning for the core systems. So core systems could be like the fire detection or the PA announcements that you hear on the trains. Obviously, like I said, we provide the trains, so we design the trains, build them, and commission them here. And basically, commissioning just means testing the system. So we test and commission the entire system. And the point of that is to safety certify the system for passenger service. And Hitachi also operates and maintains the system during revenue service with DTS. So the alignment, if you are not familiar, the rail is supposed to run from East Kapolei all the way to Ala Moana Center, and it's actually broken up into 3 segments. So the first segment that we're working on now is from East Kapolei near the Kroc Center to Aloha Stadium. The second segment will take the rail to Middle Street, and the third segment will go all the way to Ala Moana. Like I said, we're touring the Rail Operations Center today, and basically the Rail Operations Center here is a little bit different than a Rail Operations Center in a different place because we are so isolated. We're in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, so we don't have the luxuries that other people have. We need to be able to have all of our spare parts here, any type of specialized equipment, because we can't just go and find another state to provide what we need. So right now you guys are in the operations and servicing building. We call it the OSB. Basically this building has not only office spaces, but it also has the operations and control center. That's where, we'll take a tour on it later, but that's where we have all of the train control operators and the security system. And in the shop area, that is where we do the maintenance of the passenger vehicles, so the maintenance of the trains, which we'll also get to tour later. Next to the OSB is the wheel truing building. So wheel truing is basically profiling of the wheels on the train. So for example, if for any reason the train is on the main line, it has to stop and there's flat spots on the train, you take it into the wheel truing building and you can reprofile the wheels. Across the yard, we have maintenance of way building, which is where we have on-track equipment aside from the passenger vehicles. So that's where we do the servicing of those types of vehicles. Like we have some vehicles that can push the train in and out of areas, and that's where we take care of all of them in that building. The last building that we have in this facility is the train wash facility, where we're able to wash the inside of the train and the outside of the trains. And one thing to note is that this is a train that is powered by third rail. So the yard is energized. When we're going into the shop is not energized. So basically there are 2 running rails which the train runs on, and then there's a rail running in parallel that a collector chute touches and it energizes the train, and that's what powers the train to be able to move. So in the yard, we do have the yard energized, but in the shops, they aren't energized because people are walking in there, working in there, doing service on the vehicles. So that's why we have the other on-track equipment that can help push some of the vehicles in and out of the building. Okay, what you'll see today. So first we're going to go to the Operations Control Center. So like several people have mentioned so far, this is the first fully automated driverless system in the United States. The Operations Control Center, or the OCC, is staffed and operated 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every single day of the year. And the top priority for the people that work in the Operations Control Center is to maintain the safety and security of passengers and staff. So in the OCC, we are able to see the 1,500 security cameras that are installed on the Guideway, in the stations, and in the and in the trains. We also have a safety feature where there's emergency push-to-talk call buttons and boxes in the train cars and in the stations, so that passengers are able to speak directly to the OCC when there's any sort of emergency. And another cool feature that we've been working on is just collaborating with the EMS, HFD, and HPD so that they're fully equipped to do any type of rescue or respond to any fires or emergencies. The next place we're going to go to is the shop. So downstairs in the shop, like I explained earlier, the trains are powered by the energized third rail in the yard, and they're moved in and out of the shop using other vehicles. The passenger vehicles are made up of 4-car trains. It can hold up to 800 passengers, which is equivalent to 10 city buses. And the vehicles are air conditioned. We will be able to go on a vehicle today, and they do have it running in the shop. Once we are in full service, there will be free Wi-Fi for the passengers, and there is space for bikes, surfboards, wheelchairs, strollers, luggage. There's a lot of room in the train, and it's about 10 feet wide, so there's a lot of room to move around. The average speed for the vehicle is 30 miles an hour, but it can go up to 55 miles an hour on the main line. And something interesting about this train is the fact that there are open gangways. So basically, the train is made up of 4 cars. You're able to walk from one end of the car all the way to the other because the gangways are open. So there's no door where you have to go from car to car. And the total fleet when revenue service is open for all 3 segments will be 20 of those 4-car trains, and 17 of those trains will be in operation, and 8 during peak periods, and 8 will be during non-peak periods. So the ones that won't be in use will be used as spares or will be maintained. And currently we have 16 trains on the island, and we will have our 17th train in 2 weeks. The next place we're going to go to is Halolani Station, which is Leeward Community College Station. The stations will be operated and maintained by Hitachi Rail personnel. Like I said earlier, the system is maintained by Hitachi and DTS. So Hitachi maintains the core systems, obviously trains are included, and DTS will be maintaining some of just the station itself. We will have roving station operators and attendants to be able to provide support and customer service. And also a unique feature of our system is that we do have passenger screen gates. So if you guys have gone on, for example, the subway in New York City, if you go to the platform, there's no gates there, and people can fall into the Guideway. Here it's a little bit different. We do have passenger screen gates. So basically the train will arrive, and once the doors are ready to open on the train, the platform screen gates will open simultaneously. We also have a very good relationship with Leeward Community College. They have a program called Integrated Industrial Technology Program, where it's designed basically to have the students that attend that school to be able to transfer straight in here to be working with O&M. So we've already hired 10 of their graduates as full-time employees, and yeah, it's been fantastic so far. Yeah.
Are they in engineering?
So yes and no. So most of them are technicians. It somehow falls under like the engineering department, but they are technicians. So we have switches in the yard. This is an example. We have switches in the yard. One of the students that graduated from LCC now is an ATC technician. So she goes out into the main yard. She can do maintenance on the switches or troubleshoot any issue we have. We have another one that does ATC on board. So he's able to conduct the tests that we have for the automatic train control. It's pretty interesting. There's another one of the specialties that they do is for SCADA, so supervisory controls.
So the rail's currently being used in their classes as a example, or?
Not necessarily. So one of the people that we have working here in our engineering department for O&M, he has helped build the program with LCC, and they kind of have built the program so that it could be a feeder school here. Yeah. So they are like aware of what the technology is and kind of what we would need here. But another thing that some of these graduates have gone on to do is work at like Coca-Cola, work in factories. Mm-hmm. So
that wall in the shots, but welcome to the OCC. The OCC manager, and Ebony is an OCC supervisor, and I'm going to let Ebony start off by telling you a little bit about this room here.
So hey everyone, welcome to the OCC. So over here we have our CCTVs, that big wall screen over there.
Ebony.
Oh, I forgot.
There's a microphone.
I didn't know there was a mic. I'm sorry.
Here, have another mic.
We have two.
Oh. Okay. So over to your right. You have the wall of CCTVs. That's going to be our security system. If you look at it, it overlooks all the stations and like all levels of the stations, as well as the platform. The DTS security is going to be over here on these 2 workstations, so they're going to be overseeing the security for us. So in the middle, we have these 4 workstations right here. That's when we have our 2 train controllers right here. They're going to control the main line from East Kapolei to Aloha. The 2 far ends are going to be the information controllers, and they're going to observe the cameras for us, as well as relay any messages between the station to the TCOs, or excuse me, train operators, train controllers. And then over here to the far right, that left station is going to be the yard controller, and this station is going to be our fault controller engineering. And then this behind JR is where the OCC supervisor sits, so where I would sit at during operations. And right now in the first phase, it will just be one train controller, one information controller, and then one supervisor. But once we get all the way to Aloha, we're going to have the full 2 controllers with the 2 information controllers on the side. Any questions?
So this room will be occupied 24/7?
It is occupied 24/7 right now, yes.
Yeah, so Ebony gave you guys the rundown of these positions that we have in the OCC. All of us that work in the OCC, we fall under operations. So here at Hitachi, once we go into revenue service and we're working with passengers, you'll have all the people that work in operations. That's us in this room, plus the station operators at the stations and the train operators on the trains. And then you'll have maintenance. So maintenance is all of our engineers and technicians that help keep our systems running. So we do have an engineering and fault controller desk, as Ebony mentioned. That person is an operations person whose main responsibility is to respond to any faults or trouble that we see on the system and get the relevant experts, technicians or engineers, to respond to those things and get them fixed as soon as possible so they don't delay us in our service. This overview board up here that you see, it's a status display that shows us the status of the entire system in kind of one overview. It's a bigger version of what you see on this desk here. So on the top, you can see East Kapolei, EKP, or Kualakai. That's the first station. That's over in East Kapolei. And if you follow it all the way to the right, when it ends, it picks back up in the middle, and then picks back up on the bottom. And the last one is Kalia or Ala Moana station. So the ones that are orange are not built yet, or they're in phases of being built. We can't run trains there yet. The ones where the name is white, we're currently running trains out to there. So you can see Halava or ALH, Aloha Station Stadium, as the furthest one to the east that we can run trains. Then on the bottom, where you see the reggae colors, the red, yellow, and green, that is our third rail energization. So the trains are run by 750 volt DC third rail power, and when those tracks are energized, they are red on this display. So we can see that they have power. We can also see that it's dangerous for anybody who might be out there. When we de-energize those areas, the tracks turn green, like you see between Pearl Highlands and Pearl Ridge. And then the yellow areas, we're still building, so it's showing an unknown status. And then you have the same thing for the yard up there. So that top left monitor is our yard. It too has 2 versions of the display, one for the tracks, where you can see where the trains are. Those are the blinking little rectangles. Those are all of our trains and where they're parked right now. And then we have another smaller version of the SCADA that shows the energization. So green because they don't have power in the yard right now because we've got people working out there doing other tasks and they want to be safe. So, any questions?
These video feeds here,
Uh-huh.
are they up one station or are they meant to?
What we will most likely use that one for is cameras that are on the trains. So there's a outside camera on each of the trains, and that way the train controllers can have a better picture of what's happening directly related to their trains. But every video wall, including these ones on the side, you can pull up any camera on the system. And so it's pretty flexible in that way.
Do you guys have any questions?
So who's applying for a job?
All of them.
All of them? Okay, all right, we'll look out for those.
So do you do internships at all?
We've been talking about some internship programs. Anna Koti was working on that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the status is of that, but there has been some talk about it, so I know that we're open to them. I just don't know what the process or how that'll be handled right now.
So is there going to be any coordination with the TMC later, or is this just a standalone?
Well, we're pretty standalone here, but we do have our system is run down to the Joint Traffic Management Center. There's I haven't seen it yet, but I'm told there's a workstation like this there where somebody can sit at that desk and they can have direct access to our system and see what's going on. They shouldn't be able to change anything or move a train, but they'll be able to see right away what's going on and be able to coordinate with the other services and DTS from that center. Good question.
So there is going to be some data sharing or that?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Any other questions?
So if they wanted one of the jobs in this room, what would they have to do now in high school?
What was that?
What would they have to do now in high school?
What would you have to do in high school to get a job in this room? So there's three different and I apologize because we haven't really talked to a lot of students recently. But really, into this room, there's three ways in. There's either a communications way, so the information controllers, they're kind of like a start level job. And you know, their primary responsibility is responding to emergencies with passengers or even questions that people may have, and then talking on behalf of the train controller who might be too busy to get on the radio. And so a communications background and experience of dealing with emergency situations, so any types of jobs that can help you get that background could help you get as an information controller. As a train controller, right now we've only been hiring people who are previous train controller or dispatcher or air traffic controller. So most of us in this room, Ebony and myself, for example, were air traffic controllers before. We were both in the military. She was in the Navy, I'm in the Air National Guard. And so our air traffic control experience was directly translatable into a train controller position. And so we came to work for Hitachi when this started starting up. And then the third way is the engineering background. So engineering a lot of our guys have come from power plants or oil rig type of environments where they have a SCADA similar to ours, and they're monitoring a lot of different inputs and outputs, and they're getting dispatching technicians to fix situations in a timely manner before something blows up. And so they have that experience too. So those are really the three major ways to get into this room: engineering, air traffic controller, or train dispatcher somewhere else, or a communications background. And then the last one would be, and probably the most effective one would be like coming in as a station operator or another maintenance technician position in the company, and then cross-training into the OCC from one of those locations.
Lots of different ways.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah, you didn't mention urban planning.
Which what? Urban planning? I mean, I don't see why not, but I don't know.
Planning then, you get to keep the fossil fuel, so that's a different.
Uh-huh.
have this, like, I don't know, captain seat, if you will. So I'm sure a lot of people will be very excited to sit in this seat, but this whole board will be closed. You guys can take a look at it. It is kind of interesting to see basically how you would drive a train. Usually there is a door. So you would get to one end of the car and you would open the door and go to the other one, or you might not be able to and it's just, you're closed off, the cab is closed off. So this is what it means to have an open gateway. Like I was also saying earlier, the width of the train is 10 feet. So it is really wide and it's very spacious for you to move around. We can go a little bit further down. And please watch your step. So this is where people would be able to put their bikes. So basically you roll your bike on and then you stand it up and it can clip in there. What you do notice about the train is that we don't have straps for anybody in a wheelchair. So the reason for that is that because the system is so precise and because the system knows every time it goes into a station, it can weigh the train. So the train will know exactly how fast it needs to go to make the right headway time between stations. So that being said, because it is so precise, when the train does move into the station and it speeds up and it slows down, it's not at a jerky rate. So anybody that would be in a wheelchair or in a stroller would be stable. So they can be sitting anywhere and all they need to do is put on the brake. Another thing that I didn't explain is that, so the train is made up of 4 cars. There are 2 types of cars. There's an end car and there's a middle car. So they're just flipped versions of the other. So this is the middle car. We entered in on the end car. This car here is the same exact car, but you see that this bike rack on that side is on the other side. So it's just flipped. Do you guys have any questions? Yeah.
So are all the announcements going to be just in English, or you're picking up like Japanese? Or?
So right now, all the announcements are in English and in Hawaiian.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah. And it has, like, a part of the contract is that you need to be able to expand the languages, but right now it's just English and Hawaiian.
Okay.
Yep. Do you guys have any other questions?
So this can only hold 2 bikes, right?
Yeah.
So,
But because the train is so wide and there's a lot of space and there's seats that flip up,
yeah.
we imagine that if there's people that have bikes, first of all, if they don't want to use that, they don't have to. They can just come in here and stand with their bike because there's a lot of room. So, yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Like when it's operating in the
Yeah. So, how do I explain this? So, yeah, if you are riding the train and you wanted to stand in here, you definitely could stand in here. Obviously, when the train turns on a curve, this is like where it turns. So it is kind of like fun, let's say. But yeah, it's safe to stand in there. I've done it a couple times myself. You guys have other questions about the train or the system? Yeah.
How long would it take to get from like here to Halolani?
That's a good question. I don't remember off the top of my head. Do you know how long it takes to get from here to Ala Moana? I don't remember. I have it written down.
So 42 from end to end.
Yeah.
45 minutes from one end to the other.
From the Croc Center.
Yeah. So from here, it's probably about 30.
I don't know.
Maybe
Yeah, maybe 30 minutes.
32 minutes.
So the real benefit of having a system like this is that it is on an elevated guideway. So there's 2 strong benefits about that. One, in other railway systems that are on the ground, usually there's a part where the system intersects with cars, and that's where the most incidents happen. So that's something really good about this system is that we don't have that issue here. So everybody is elevated, obviously it's an elevated guideway, so that's something we don't have to worry about. Secondly, if there is some kind of accident on the freeway, you guys don't have to sit in the traffic on the freeway because again, you're on an elevated guideway. So that's another really good benefit of being elevated. Any other questions? Yeah.
Do you expect like all of the seats to be built like on one day?
So I don't think we've done, well, actually, I think maybe Joey might want to answer this question, but I don't think that there has been a recent study done on ridership again. Do you know if they've done another ridership study?
Yeah.
She asked, what are the expectations for ridership? So what I said earlier is that you can fit 800 people comfortably on the train, but what is the expected ridership?
So we're expecting about 100 to 120,000 people a day by like 2030. So when we open, and then after a couple of years of operation, when everything stabilizes, so it's somewhere between 100 120,000.
Okay.
And so that's going to be kind of much higher than a lot of initial light rail systems elsewhere in the country. And that's because Honolulu, it's kind of shaped as a linear city, right? So we've got a lot of, we've got the mountains and the ocean and everything squeezed in between. And so we've got high density, lots of buildings, right? So it's perfect, it's a perfect linear city for this type of rail system. And a lot of people will actually be walking to the system in Kalihi, Kaka'ako, and out of Ho'opili. So it's well suited.
And the colleges.
And the colleges, exactly. And we got the stadium.
Yeah.
We got the Pearl Harbor, Joint Base Pearl Harbor. We got the airport. So we've got all the key destinations all along one line. So we're really lucky here.
What's the most challenging part of the maintenance?
That's a good question. I guess initially the most challenging part of the maintenance is that the system is very new. So a part of our program for O&M is that we do bring on local employees. The difficulty with that is that nobody is familiar locally with a rail system. So basically what we've done for our program is that we bring in experts and we've hired, I think we've hired 150 local people and they're training under the experts to be able to maintain the system. So that's a challenge that we have. Another challenge, like I was mentioning earlier, is that because we are so remote, the challenge is that we need to make sure we have all the parts that we need here. So when you guys walked into the shop, we walked past the warehouse. In the warehouse, we need to make sure that we have all the spare parts that we need that would take a long time to get. So anything with a long lead time. And the challenge of living on an island is that if you need anything that's like a special equipment, shipping here takes anywhere up to 8 to 12 weeks. So that's why it's really important for us to have a big facility like this and maintain all of the spares. I would say those are the two challenging things. Do you guys have any other? Yeah.
Was there ever a thought of like having it like karaoke, or is there like no need for that?
Oh, it's you again.
What was it?
Was there ever a thought of having it like karaoke or something like that? Or was it like not much money for that?
Not really. So Kaneohe was all going to be served by H3 and the freeway. I think maybe in the future, when we get this line going. So again, when they approved the rail in 2006, when they did the initial study for it, again, we have a 34-mile locally preferred alternative, which stretches from all the way West Kapolei, Kapolei Commons Shopping Center, all the way to the University of Hawaii and Waikiki. So we're just doing the first 20 miles of that 34-mile system. And then in the future, we'll expand it more.
Line expansions.
Yep. So.
You guys have other questions?
Any other questions? While we're in the air conditioning.
How are we doing on time?
Actually, I will say, somebody told me that H3 is designed that they could actually accommodate light rail. So that's what one of the engineers told me a long time ago.
That's interesting.
So,
I didn't know that.
yeah.
Nice. Okay, we're doing pretty good on time. You guys can feel free to take whatever pictures you want in here. After you guys are done in here, we can go down and take a group photo between the two trains. Actually, one thing that I didn't mention about this is that we have 4 tracks inside of the shop. So this track is M5, that one is M4, and what's special about M5 and M4 is that these are the pit tracks. So if we need to do any maintenance under the vehicles, you push the train in here, and if you look out the window, you can see that we're above the pit tracks. So earlier there was a group, they're doing training, they're down there. Basically, they can come here, they can look under the train. This is where we do any fixes that we need to do. What we can also do on this train is there are stairs on this platform to go up. So you can also do maintenance on the top of the train. So we have like HVAC panels and things like that that need to be maintained. So that's the specialty for these 2 tracks, the pit tracks. Okay. You guys want to take your pictures?
Yay.
The fun part.